The broken shelter of folded words, aligned with senseless balance. Shh. Listen. Listen to listen for once. We arrive eager to learn and celebrate teaching a craft we've never learned. The shiny drops of pain sparkle with the glitter of experience and stain the cheeks of first timers. Only in the weak declaration of our story do we begin to teach. The honesty and truth told of viable lessons. And so begins the return of our journey's beginning. And so begins the process of securing the healthy halo lost in our search. Listening to the unabashed playback of our failure is the witness to growth for an audience looking to learn. Today's conversation is about how succumbing to our weakness is where strength and wisdom are found. Hi, Lori.
Hello, welcome to Tug of Heart, everybody.
How are you?
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
it I had the luxury of hearing it a little bit earlier in the week, and I don't know what I would have thought of the idea of healthy halo without hearing that, because that just reoriented everything I have ever thought about halos and health. Seriously, it's it's very short. It's like a couple paragraphs maybe, but it's so I feel like this what I was hearing was autobiographical. And as I was thinking about it this week, I was like, I'll be darned, that could be a template for every heart's story once we decide we want to contribute to that. Um, Permission to speak freely?
Absolutely go.
Sure. Okay. You know, this was really emotional for me to hear this, because I love you, and because I'm still a little, I'm in a weakened state with everything that's happened, and also because we're in the heart talking about it and working about it. Um, so left to my own thoughts this week, I was thinking of who you are, like who you really are. I've known you longer than anybody. I like to say I know your heart, and I like to say I know you by heart. But there's always more. There's always more. Uh, and sometimes in life, like, you can know a person, but there's certain things that you can't reconcile with them, right? And for us, one of the things that has come up is we will see our past differently. And so that's one of the things that I would say we haven't always reconciled. No harm, no foul. We move on. We've had a really, really nice siblingship and friendship, if you want to call it that. But going back to just how I know you, if I was going to say, with permission to be completely honest and that unabashed that you share, I would say that your specific childhood made you into a man of hard habits when you were a young man. And I've heard you tell your story over and over in snippets here and there. Um, the stories of our youth. But a part of it that I realized this week was you retelling who you had also been told that you were. And over time, I have told you this, over maybe last decade, couple decades, that narration has started to change, and your perspective has shifted more into the first person. So you're no longer telling in the last decade plus about Leroy as Leroy, but you began telling about the me, the you that exists within Leroy. Um, and to me, that's your unabashed playback. And that's why I think this really made me emotional. I'm sorry if I'm stumbling through this, but bear with me, because it's feelings, and I hadn't thought of how I might actually say it, when it comes down to it. But anyways, after I heard this week, I realized, like, the thing that your audience has gained as your story has shifted and you have put more of that heart, you have more heart infused in your stories. So the audience has gained, and I mean, what I've gained from listening, it's the difference between a caricature of your ways and then understanding the heart that lies beneath that. And you said the week declaration. I just scrolled down here. When you've begun sharing that week declaration, the whole world that you and I share as twins has changed for me, because now I can operate within this gift that I feel like you've given me over the past several years that I maybe didn't have when you were a younger adult. And that's the gift of better understanding your story, the you that was always there in the story, but that gift is the context. And that's only available through what carries context when it comes to our personal story, in my view, is that vulnerability. And I mean, I'm just rearranging all your words to say this because it's exactly how I feel. And until I read it, I didn't know that. But it just lines up with what I feel about the heart and the very difficult work of being true to your heart and being true with the world and giving that feedback to the world of context. Because when you do that, it's humanizing and it gives other people permission, I think, to join you in doing the same. And that admission of vulnerability, right, that gives the context. My last thought, I guess, about this is like, without that, who among us without context makes any kind of reasonable sense, right? In trying to understand people, we get people wrong all the time. It hurts when people get us wrong. How many times do people just say something, you're like, they got it all wrong? It matters. And I'm getting choked up because it was just beautiful.
So let me kind of get through a couple of these things, and I'll tell you what I was thinking when I wrote it. First and foremost, as we've gone through this and it's become easier and I'm more accustomed at sharing failure, I was delighted when you asked me to be a part of your podcast. And the truth is, I didn't come on here, prideful. I came on here to work stuff out. And so I've gotten a lot better at it. And maybe this is going to get uglier as we go. I don't know. but I'm realizing a couple of things. There's winning by any means necessary. And the challenge with that is that there's a loser.
Right.
And then there's winning because you won something more internal and you shared something. And if somebody else, it made sense to somebody else, well, then they win too. And if they share that with somebody else, well, that's a lot different than saying I'm a winner, whereas the polarizing reality is there has to be a loser,
Yeah.
So I'm trying to live a little bit differently. Second, I want to tell you that I already know what it's like to do it wrong. Spend a lot of time doing it wrong, doing a lot of things wrong. And I know that as we get older, and I'm at a place now where I kind of am who I am, I don't want to run out of time to be remembered in a good light.
Right, which is the
so you can win at a lot of things, but where's the pomp and pageantry of just winning if you're not remembered in a good light, and so listen, we're kind of in the middle of our life, we hope. We hope that this is just the middle, but I just don't want to run out of time, to genuinely be appreciated, to genuinely appreciate opposition, new ideas. They may not change me. I mean, we're knocking on the door at 50 years old. What we think today is kind of what we think. And while we are modifying, different lessons of our life and understanding them better, I mean, I want to appreciate a lot more. I'm excited to learn more. Now, when I wrote this, Lori, I was writing it from a position that there's a lot to be said about, children. Right. And this podcast started, as a antidote of some sort of anesthetic for Seth's disease, the loss of Seth's memories, Seth's wisdom. Mm-hmm. And then we can stop there, because when you get to Seth's wisdom, that's where this comes from. Because as young as he was wise in that he could tune out a whole bunch of stuff and just focus on what mattered. And if that was making animations, if that was playing a game, if that was talking to you, if that was, he lived in the moment, and there's a lot of wisdom in that. So when I say, and so begins the return of our journey's beginning, we start out very focused. It's just like, we know what we like. When it's cold, we put on a jacket. When we've got chores, we do them right away so we can get to the good part. There's something to be said about living that way. That's kind of how I wrote it.
Yeah, when I took notes, I was just flipping to try to find this. It's really funny. I'll see if you could see this or not. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So at its most basic, I had what I felt about it. That's its own life, and then there's the working it out for me always, because that's just the way I am. And I was thinking, this says so much about the human experience, that little tiny bit that you wrote. And I was thinking, like, the funny thing about experience is we tend to equate an experience with imperfection, and when I was trying to imagine, like, what you could have meant philosophically, even though I know this is just about the heart, but that's my way of working things out. I was thinking, like, experience, what does experience really do to us in life that changes us from when we're very young? And it was like, it changes our point of reference, in that our new point of reference is the world itself, right? Because that's what we're experiencing in our time here. And when we start to leave that area, I was thinking it's more like an arc. If you saw that picture between being young and then being mature, I was like, it's not a same plane. It's like we shoot like an arc, like a picture, a rainbow. And along that journey, that's that arc or rainbow, for those that prefer to have a visual, that's the time we witness alternatives to how we just naturally arrived, if you want to call it that. But somewhere along there, we've left that plane where we were safe and sound and whole and intact. And to see the alternative comes at the cost of a little bit of self-injury. But it also makes sense to me that it would be, because the arc also comes to an end. The other side of that rainbow, if you picture, is on the same plane as the young person, but you're further along in time, right? And that's all I'm going to get into about that, except to say that it's important to know when we're unhealthy, because you had said, this is about the healthy halo. And to be healthy means that you're in that sound state. you're uninjured in body, in mind, in heart, and you're wholesome, and healthful. What happens is we end up getting like a kind of injury that leaves us a little bit weak. And then you said, what was it? The unabashed playback,
Mm-hmm.
right? As a witness of our growth, right? And to me, that's telling, when we realize it, how we got injured along the way. And if you think of it just in the here and now, the real physical part, without the heart, when it comes to health, like, the greatest strength lies in the diagnostics of health, being able to say, this is what's wrong, now you can address it. Half the battle is eliminating what it is. So to me, when you're able to tell a story and say, what's wrong, what has been injured, when you can ask these, then you can identify what needs healing. And that's when you're able to begin a type of restoration, which just means returning to that whole self that was once uninjured, but also better, because now it happens somehow, like in our, in the freedom of our own will, because we are doing it by our own choice. And so this is the last thing I'll say, and then I'll go back to you. But it's like, when you're telling this story, I think you have epitomized that, because you're no longer telling the story that your parents wrote out for you or anything. You're the father of your life now. Like, you decide about you. And that weakness is so empowering. You say, this is what's wrong, I will fix it, because only you can. And it doesn't matter. It does not matter how it happened or what's right or wrong and fair in life. Only we can fix our inner injuries. We can have help, but there needs to be, I think, exactly what you said in that paragraph. And I think that's why it chokes me up, because it's even realizing for myself, like, what weaknesses have I not succumbed to, and been able to retell. Only then the work starts, the very hard work, but you're going to probably make it. That's my feeling, at least today.
I think when you tell your story, and you tell not the story you wish, we had this thing about truth, and I don't remember what it was called, but it was comical. But when you tell your story as it was, not as you wished it would have been, now you just set a benchmark for the floor, because everything from that low, it's pretty easy to gauge, improvement. So since today is like the Leroy day, we can talk about, there was a lot of ugly in the beginning. Mm-hmm. We share parents, we share siblings, but our experiences are completely different with our parents and with our siblings. Good for both of us, but when I kind of tell my story, there came a point where I couldn't, there was no glamour in saying, well, I'm this way because of this.
Right.
Okay, so, that's kind of how you started. Okay, so that's just your benchmark, because that's not this now.
That's a good one. Not this now.
So when, as we go through these things, you're just like, oftentimes I say, listen, use this. Anybody who's listening to this podcast, use it for comedic value. Use it as a reminder of what not to do. Use it to reflect. Use it to consider. I love the idea of just considering different things. Don't have to change your mind. Just consider it, because in that consideration, maybe there's an answer, not a solution, just an answer to a little bit of a big deal. We're not the authority. We're just talking amongst ourselves. I like that. There's something super exciting about recognizing hardship as that's the low point, because
Oh,
you,
yes.
you don't have to get a running start to cross that hurdle. You merely need to pick up one knee and step over it. You know, it's such a low benchmark. You know,
Right.
you can literally take your worst experience, and that was a day that you will remember maybe for eternity. And you can literally walk out the front door and do something kind for somebody else. And on that day, you changed completely. You changed the narrative. One was horrible, one made you feel good. And this isn't a podcast about charity, because we fall short all the time.
Hmm.
We'll never be able to do enough, and yet we're blessed beyond measure.
Right.
But you can change. I mean, that may be an oversimplification, but if you're remembering a bad moment, just create a good moment. And now it's, wow, okay, every time I feel something bad, I do something good. And
Oh,
it's
I
like,
love
wow,
that.
contradiction to your memory.
Replace, not replace it, but counter it. Like encounter it and then counter it, you know.
On the scales of our own internal justice, we're winning by having a lot of really good experiences. These
Right.
are, these are hard because we romanticize things, pain and this and that. And listen, there's no better crutch for our own failure than just remembering other things that contributed to those failures. You know,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's nice to be like, well, yeah, well, my mom didn't like me. Well, okay, but it's we just have to get to work on, yeah, counteracting bad memories by creating good ones. And every time you have a bad one, create a good one.
It's like finding a way of giving meaning to what otherwise is just meaningless suffering in your life. And that's drudgery that we talk about versus suffering that was purposeful, right? And having it point to something ultimately good. And it's quite easy to do because, like you said, your mark is right there. The only place you can point is somewhere up. If it's not, maybe you haven't really reached there, and be grateful for where you still are. For all of us.
That's a relative thing. I mean,
Right.
that could be us, but everybody experiences things differently. And I can't wait until we get people on here, because it's gonna, you and I have become very accustomed with, negotiating between two twins. Probably not a very high bar, That's very easy for two
Well,
twins.
yeah, it's easy for you to talk to me because, like, I I have to like you, so
There you go. Exactly.
I want to say, though, when you were talking about remembering and that benchmark, and the thing is, when it's not to say that we do something countering to undo what's happened or any damage, because there's no such thing. It's a matter of being able to say, who am I really at the heart, underneath everything else? Who am I? And that's where I think our purpose comes from, being able to have that clear, sane look at ourselves as we really are. And that, when you're saying, telling the story of our weakness, when we can blame people for this, the crutch you're talking about, this happened to me, but the weakness, our personal that we have created and we hold by choice, knowing or not, that weakness that we're unaware of, that makes us the loneliest of all, because loneliness is all about connection. And if you're, the one thing you can be guaranteed in life is as far as loneliness goes, at least wherever I'm at, I'm there. I'm there with me. You're disconnected from yourself. That has got to be a form of hell, because then you are completely lonely. And you hear that question, to come out of loneliness, it's that same question of who am I? And until you know that, you might just take this person who's experienced this, you may just see the damage and reject yourself. But when you see yourself in full light, and I like that you even said halo, because that implies a kind of light, right? Mm-hmm. And not just religiously. This has been for emperors, for secular, for everybody. As a symbol, it's the halo. It's found in nature, the halo around water drops, in a bubble. You see just kind of the spectral colors or whatever. But when we're able to say, who am I, and shine that light, that is kind of our halo, I think, because we're able to see ourselves in clear light. And I think you had said about making your way just a little bit. You could even picture it like kind of moving through darkness, and with each step you widen that light just a little bit more, because every time we displace a little light to move forward, a little darkness to move forward, we've added to our own light somehow. I feel like too much.
No. I mean, I hear what you're saying. Mildly complicated. Mildly. Okay, it's really complicated. I mean, you got a really interesting brain.
My lights out.
I think as the more podcast sessions, chats, the more that we get, the more I recognize the cyclical nature of many of the topics that we share. And I remember talking about things being familiar. And I shared a story about the old tennis shoes. Mm-hmm. And I think that I remember, let me change the subject. I apologize. I'm going to tell you a little story. Mm-hmm. I'm dealing with my daughter. And my daughter says she's working in corporate America. She likes what she's doing. She's making good money. And she knows about some craziness on the horizon. A little bit of unsavory activities up the chain, so to speak. And she can kind of feel the weight coming down, projections and goals and quotas and all these things. And I told her, I said, you know what you need to do? You need to go in. And I said, tie a stake around your neck and put your hair up, put some feathers in your hair, and walk into your board meeting. Just like that. And she said, Dad, come on, I could never do that. I'm like, yeah, you can. I said, because the writing's already on the wall. And if you want change, you got to be dramatic. It's got to be drastic. It's got to be wow. Because the first thing they're going to say is, have you gone mad? At which time, properly prepared, you can execute your rebuttal, which is, have you? Because you expect us to meet quota, but we don't have product. You expect us to satisfy orders for which we don't have accurate timelines. You expect us to teach without tools. You expect us to be the bookkeepers for hours and overruns. So it's like this craziness. And so we're very familiar with ourselves. We're familiar with our flawed selves. And what we do know is that we can wake up every single day in a flawed state without and we're going to get through the day. But this is so much more than just getting through the day.
That's
This
right.
is this is about improving, not for anyone else's benefit, but for our own. And so when we're talking about the healthy halo, we're so far removed because of life's experiences that we forgot how to be childlike. We forgot how to be innocent. We forgot how to problem solve at a child mentality, which is not wrong.
Things are more clear. At
Too hot, step away.
right.
Too cold, put a jacket on. And so I tell you the story about Zaina because oftentimes we don't do things because they're out of character, but character is something that we acquire through all the years of our existence. So when we're dealing with something, we have to go out and we have to be brave, because we're not going to be any worse off if we're not received well, because there are things about ourselves that we don't even receive ourselves well.
Right.
So we're worried so much about acceptance, and yet we walk all our lives, through disappointment in ourselves. We walk through depression. We walk through sickness, angst, anxiety, all these things.
Are you talking about me?
No, me. We share a brain.
Go on.
But we do all these things because it's who we know. And it's nothing more than, oh, well, I know it's bad, but I know I can deal with it. We gotta be that person with a stake around their neck and just go out and do it differently. Kind of like that assignment we did over Valentine's. Like, I felt really good about it. And I wasn't even aware of it, but yet I felt better for having done something kind that didn't affect me. And you know who got the biggest gift? This guy, me, guy with two thumbs pointing right at him. So,
yep.
So I think that's where the healthy halo is. Like, recognizing our failure, sharing our failure, and then doing it different.
I love that. And even through discomfort, I would recommend doing it, because a lot of a correcting injury does involve discomfort. Sometimes you have to, but I'm just saying, because a lot of times we'll want to do it. People will want to do something for a very long time once they've recognized failure, but the thought of actually facing it, the encounter, is too much. And so we set off, for later, doing a lot of things that we should. That delay, because I know this isn't right. My heart says this isn't right, but we'll push forward because we don't want to disturb things. I don't know.
It's conditioning, Lori. Mm-hmm. You and I, no secrets. 48 years old. Our bad habits, some of them are 48 years old.
Yeah.
Some are 20 years old. And we got to have realistic expectations. You pull somebody out of a sedentary lifestyle and tell them to run a marathon, you're probably going to be disappointed in their...
Talk about further injury.
Right, yeah. But if you condition, if we start small, we don't have to start small. We don't have to go outside. You can literally, if there's an elderly person on your street, just take their mail from, and you see them come out with a walker. Well, don't do that, because number one, you can't move mail. And number two, you might be sabotaging her daily walk to the mailbox. So, but it's so easy.
So howdy, at least, right? Give a howdy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this is a different world. You can't really do so much nice stuff without checking with them first. Mm-hmm. But just do little things, little tiny things. How was your weekend, Lori?
Oh, it was good. The week has been like a little bit of a blur because I've been busy, and then It's been good inside though. Like in my heart is good. And it's also good, but a little bit of pain, because a lot of times I do think that, like, when you're in the middle of a stretch, and I feel like I'm in a little bit of a stretch right now in life, there's the pain of stretching, but there's also that restfulness of knowing that it's most right, I guess, right?
You didn't like your recipe, did you?
Yeah, I can't remember about that, but I do think I made a word lottery. Like, that sounded good to me. I got to hear it at playback. But hey, what do you think about here? Can we talk about habits after this?
Yeah, let's do it. I love habits.
I feel
like
a
lot of them.
Yeah, you got me thinking of that. I'm still here going, wow, I have habits this old, and the conditioning, reconditioning, and we haven't yet accomplished the second part of what you wrote, which was the returning back to that state. And a lot of that is in the undoing of some things, including habits, I think, right? You're like, did I mean all that?
No, yeah, I was taking a little bit of a different approach. I just meant let's simplify. Mm-hmm. When I say the return of our journey, I just mean the beginning of our journey. The objectives need to go back to very simple objectives. Be nice, be kind, be ingratiating.
But something is still owed if you made a mess along the way. Because it's nice to just say, I'll just go back to the start, but what about the pieces left on the way? And that's where I think a little work with the habits.
Well, yeah, I can't ring the doorbell of everybody who have offended in my life.
Yeah, we're not AA or making a note, nothing like that. But I
don't have the budget for the shoes.
No, but I mean, but inside,
Mm-hmm. All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Listen, Lori, that was a good little chat.
I love this, and I'm gonna see if I'll try to post it when this airs, because I think it's worth reading in somebody's silence of their mind, because it's really profound. So
still looking for the input.
What's that?
Still looking from the input from our listeners.
I may assign people to keep the others from being shy. I may have to put the stake on my neck and just print and hand out and assign with the
questionnaires. Yeah. All right.
Cold calls. Can you listen to this podcast for 30 minutes and see what you think about it? Hey, Leroy, let's sign off here. Everybody who's joined us, thank you. You can like and share the podcast, and also Strong Island. You can like and share their page. Hi, shout out to Bobby. He does a great job keeping us in order somewhat. He tries his best, and we try to make that difficult for him, but nonetheless. And so next time we will see where we head. Hopefully it will include something to do with habits, but we'll see where we are then. Until next time.
Adios.